KBLA Talk 1580 launched with a promise to give disenfranchised fellow citizens a voice in current political, economic, social, and cultural issues with an empowering, sustainable, and restorative language.
Everybody's gotta live a life under the sun, under the sun, under the sun.
As we enter our third year, we are delighted that KBLA Talk 1580 consistently emerges as the talk station of choice for African American listeners. In a vigorous public opinion research study, the 2023 African American Media Issue Survey finds that for the second consecutive year, KBLA Talk 1580 remains the most trusted, credible, and reliable media source in Southern California for African Americans and beyond. Furthermore, 80% of those surveyed agree that outlets like KBLA Talk 1580 provide honest and authentic content about the issues most important to the Black community directly from Black journalists who understand the issues that need to be addressed. At KBLA Talk 1580, we remain committed to curating conversations that matter to you. Thank you for your continued support. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. The station that sounds like the city looks.
I like to dedicate this to all of the Creator's righteous children. I have some food in my bag for you. Not that edible food, that food you eat. No, I have some food for thought. Since knowledge is infinite, it has infinitely fell on me. So, it was a stormy night. You know the kind where the lightning strikes.
Okay, we better get a little Erykah Badu apple tree popping off. All right, Andy, take it back to what? Is that on the Baduism album? 97? 98? 97. Okay. That's what I thought. All right. And Erykah's still rocking with her mini-me. You are checking out RSVP with Jill Munroe right here live on KBLA Talk 1580. We are in hour 2. And you know we still have lots of trending topics and headlines to get through because that's what we're here for, right? That is what you are tuning in for. Now, before we get into all of it, make sure you're ready. You got your snacks, a little beverage. Get comfortable. If you haven't downloaded the app, make sure you do that so that in case you have to run out or leave the room, you can take us with you. If you want to call in, 800-920-1580. If you have a thought that you want to add to the dancer list, I know Terry in the YouTube chat is offering up Zendaya. He said she's a great dancer, someone we should consider. I mean, I remembered Zendaya when she was on her pop star kind of R&B urban but not stuff right after Disney. Okay. I have to go back and check that because I remember it, but I wasn't locked in, so I don't have an opinion on that one. But we'll take it if you say so. It works for me. Now, we mentioned earlier that there is a California-based startup, Elite Aeronautics, that has received the FAA's Special Airworthiness Certification. It's for their Model A flying car. I know I mentioned this, when we watch the Jetsons or you see stuff from there, they had all of the things that we have now except for flying cars. And with the way the traffic is, you kind of wonder why, but then you think about the traffic we have on the ground and that being in the sky, and it kind of, at least for me, causes pause. But the Model A costs $300,000. It's equipped with drone-like internal propellers, and it offers a range of 200 miles over land, 110 in the air. So its unique selling point lies in its driveway-friendly design and vertical takeoff and landing. They're nearing production. They want to get it started for private ownership and personal use, both on the ground and the air. So I want to know, our good question for hour 2 is, are you interested in owning a flying car? Would you be ready to take to the airways and make that your mode of transportation? Is it going to be like airplanes and air traffic control? I wonder all of that. Like, are there streets? Are there going to be landing pads somewhere? I think that it still doesn't make sense to me how it can happen, especially as new construction happens. What are going to be the limits to, kind of drive and fly? I'm curious about all of that. Terry in the chat says, I used to be a dancer. My mom used to be a professional ballroom dancer in Harlem, Manhattan, Brooklyn, Connecticut, and New Jersey. That's amazing. And she Also, and Terry also added Zendaya came in second place on Dancing with the Stars. Okay, I forgot about that. You know, if there was a reality competition show that I could do, it would probably be Dancing with the Stars. I think that that would be fun, changing up the choreography every week and, you know, picking out your ensemble and what have you. I don't even know if that show comes on anymore. Oh, it does. It comes on streaming. Andy, what say you?
I was gonna say, man, the Big Boss Man was on Dancing with the Stars.
I did not know that.
All right, I'm gonna just.
Oh, I'm hitting YouTube. I gotta check it out. I gotta check it out. So our boss, Tavis Smiley, was on Dancing with the Stars. I'm gonna have to go look that up. That is amazing because I really enjoy that show. It is entertaining to me. So I have to like go see what kind of moves he was busted out. I like that. Shout out to Tavis Smiley. We are appreciative of him. So let's get into some of these trending topics. Now, Dame Dash. Love Dame Dash. Dame Dash is, you know, a hip hop. Do we throw around the word icon too much? Sometimes I wonder, but sometimes I think about the game-changing things that some of these people that we mentioned were a part of, what they set the standard for, and where I think about where the culture was, I guess, pre them coming in and what they were known for, how long it lasted, and kind of what they were able to do. So, having said that, I do, to a degree, consider Dame in a hip-hop icon. These latter parts, I sometimes I don't know, but I appreciate, like, Dame is always a hustler. He's always going to speak his mind. He is for independent ownership in business, and I respect that. He is going to get to it. He is going to keep working. He's not going to stop promoting, so I give Dame props on that.
He's an icon, and the reason why I say he's an icon, outside of what he did, obviously in the hip hop game, I look at what he's currently doing now.
As far as streaming?
I want to say he has a relationship with Diddy with Revolt, if I'm not mistaken. Only reason why I say that is because they host Earn Your Leisure.
Right, I love that podcast.
Earn Your Leisure, and I don't know if you're familiar with 19 Keys. These are
Yep.
all products from Dame Dash, and I feel like these individuals, the best
Revolt
way
has assets and liabilities. Earn Your Leisure is the YouTube channel that they have.
no.
Yeah. Assets and Liabilities is their show on Revolt. Earn Your Leisure is the YouTube channel. Market Mondays is the show that they do. They have
Okay.
little subdivisions.
Earn Your Leisure.
Shout out to them. And 19 Keys,
And 19
like he's
Keys.
deep. Like that is some deep conversations. You got to be on a higher level to check in with that.
Absolutely, and I just feel like these individuals came from Dame Dash's umbrella, and these individuals are kind of moving the culture right now
I agree.
in a positive way.
Yep, in a positive way.
And because of that, that's why I got to give him some iconic status.
I mean, I do, and really, it's like it's a catch-22 because I think about the moves that he was making for Jay, and I worked in the music industry at that time, so I kind of know what the environment was like, and there's one hand of thought that Dame went overboard in his approach and how he handled some of the executives, but we also will never know if his approach is what got them through, you know? So we may question it. We may not feel like it was the best way to handle things, but at the time, it did what it needed to do, you know? All things aside. Having said all that, I think Dame needs to retire the Aaliyah conversation. I really do. I understand that when you have a love that is kind of not unrequited, but unfulfilled, like you don't fully know the possibilities. It was just started to take off, and there were so many things happening at that time period. Your mind can go into 1,000 different places of what could have been, what might have been, what should have been. So Dame, we know, frequently discuss his situation with Aaliyah and the various aspects of it and how they met and what attracted to him to her and so forth. So in a recent interview, he was talking about them once again, and he was saying that he and Aaliyah had the same accountant. That's really how they met, and that he would see her and she would always look different every time he would see her, and that Aaliyah, she had the tomboy vibe, and that everybody was kind of in pursuit of her at that time, including Jay-Z. We know that he has shared this before. There have been questions, well, did they date? Were they really just good friends? What happened? Well, Dame says they were trying to do something, but then he swooped in, and Jay-Z is still salty about it. Andy, you ready with that clip? We gonna play the clip.
And then I realized it was Aaliyah, and then I just threw my A game. And then, I guess Jay was trying to get at her as well, and I didn't know. And then, it got brought up, and I was like, both of y'all. But it never worked out for them, and we were both like trying to get at her. I kind of eased up, but then we ran into each other. It's a long story.
So you and Jay was both getting at Aaliyah. Obviously,
everybody was getting at Aaliyah, bro.
Right.
She was like, she'll go to dinner with her, but she wasn't going to just be smashing. So that was like the big deal, like who could get with Aaliyah. You know what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
We all put like.
Was he bitter?
Obviously. Yeah, he felt the way.
So those are Dame's comments. That, there is so much in not even a minute-long clip. There is so much that we could get into. Andy, what do you have to say?
Man, see, this is the type of stuff growing up in situations like that. Like if I'm with a group of my friends or whatnot, and an attractive woman is around or whatnot, I already know that all of them is probably trying to, put their bid in or whatnot. And because of that, I can only speak for myself. I was that individual that would fall all the way back.
Okay.
Why am I going to compete with my homies?
Right. I feel you on that.
You know what I mean? Because if I start dating her, one of you guys are going to hate. And quite frankly, my friendship means more than, a relationship with the woman. I know
potential
that
of
the potential, and I know that sounds kind of whack, but
no. Here's the thing, but I understand that it's not about. I think there's a difference between when you are in a relationship and you start, making those concessions, and things adjust as you grow closer as a couple. But just starting out, why would you beef with your friend over a stranger? Why would you get yourself involved? So I understand where you're coming from with that. I do think that it's always so interesting because the late 90s, early 2000s, it was a different time as far as what was acceptable as far as attraction or commentary on attraction and things of that nature. And I know it's a very sensitive topic, especially considering Aaliyah's past, but, it almost makes it feel like part of the reason why Dame keeps bringing up Aaliyah is because it's one of the only things he's ever had over Jay.
100%.
And that's just crazy to me. Like, go talk to that man, because if it's a pride thing keeping you, and I get it, Jay may not be open to a conversation, but I just think it feels like he's bleeding all over the place, continuing to have these conversations. And then he has his wife saying, I remember it was a couple of years ago, she said she felt Aaliyah's spirit within their marriage, and she talked to her. Come on, man, that's a lot.
Yeah, he does come off a little bit bitter. I mean, I don't know if Jay-Z's thinking about Aaliyah still. I mean, you got Beyonce.
Doubt it.
You got the hottest chick in the game.
I doubt it. Listen, Terry says that Jay-Z dated Maya and Rihanna. We don't know that he dated Rihanna. That's rumors. We're not going to say that. Or Maya. They did a video together. They were friends. We aren't going to say that. Jay-Z loves women that only have one name. Okay, Terry. I'll see you with that. Leslie Holmes says, shout out to Mr. Tavis Smiley. I thank him. Miss Jill Munroe and all of the amazing personalities on KBLA. I love this talk radio format. Well, shout out to Leslie. We appreciate that.
Spread the word.
Yep, spread the word. That is something else. Please, if you are enjoying what you are listening to, not only hit that like button, but share it with a friend. Tell them to tap in. We appreciate that. That's how we're going to grow our little community here. And you want to share VIP with a friend, right? Because it's no fun. Well, sometimes it's fun to be in VIP and other people aren't. But generally, you want a friend there with you so you can share the laughs and have a good time. So do that for me. I would appreciate it so much. So back to Dame for a second. I feel for you. But I also, at this juncture, because we are coming up on almost, 22 years at this point? That was August 25th, 2001. Yeah. Come on, Dame. Come on. Come on. I like, that's all I can say about it. It feels kind of stretched out, and again, being respectful to those feelings of love that was cut short and all of these things, but now it just kind of feels almost ucky sometimes.
So should he forget about Aaliyah?
No, I'm not saying he
Okay.
shouldn't forget about her. And I understand that when you're in an interview, you can't necessarily control what you're going to be asked.
Right.
And everyone wants to ask their version of the question. They want to have the conversation with you. It might be some obscure detail that you remember that they want to ask Dame about because they've always wanted to know. So I get that it's a balance too, because he's being interviewed. But I do also think that, again, when the Jay-Z part comes up, he's like, and we're going to get a little extra right here, right now, because I like to throw these zingers at Jay-Z. And while I don't think that Jay-Z is thinking about Aaliyah, I do feel like Jay-Z has a little Michael Jordan in him, if you know what I mean. You know how Michael Jordan always has these little things that motivate him, these beefs, or remembers these slights, these small little microaggressions or things. And I think that Jay has a little bit of that in him. I think Jay could be a little petty in his own way. And so I think it's not so much that he cares really about whatever Dame is saying, but they were good friends for a long time. One, people know how to push people's buttons, even if Jay has evolved past some of that. And the other is just, I think he knows how to get to him. When we come forward, we're going to talk about Samuel L. Jackson receiving an honorary Oscar and his thoughts about that. We're also going to get into Stephen A. Smith. You know, a friend of his, a journalist friend of his, is saying that Stephen A. Smith has a beef with a female journalist. We're going to talk about that, all that and more. You're listening to KBLA Talk 1580.
RSVP with Jill Munroe is your go-to show for staying in the know. More engaging conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
At Charmin, we heard you shouldn't talk about going to the bathroom in public, so we decided to sing about it.
Roll Charmin ultra strong when you drop in the beat. It cleans with way less effort on your seat. Yeah, roll it, drop it. Yeah, roll it, yeah, drop it. Charmin flows extra strong from the road. Your butt hella clean while you're sitting on the bowl. Yeah, it's all you need for that bathroom groove. Get you in and out without nothing to prove.
Charmin Ultra Strong cleans better so you can use less. Enjoy the go with Charmin.
Where are we on the lineup?
It's official. Avery is producing Main Street Music Days.
We need to be ready. We're going to have lots of people. What's the status on the new sound engineer?
They need an audio technician to keep things level from sound checks to encores.
Make sure audio from one stage does not compete with another.
Indeed can help them hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. Our hiring platform instantly connects you with quality candidates, and you can schedule and conduct virtual interviews right from the Indeed dashboard. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
Mom's early Alzheimer's diagnosis was hard to take. And when I left the oven on, we decided together that it was time to see a doctor and make a plan. Early detection gave us more time to seek out information and support as a family.
If you or your family are noticing changes, it could be Alzheimer's. Talk about seeing a doctor together. For more information, visit alz.org/time-to-talk. A message from the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
If this were a Reese's TV ad, you'd be staring at a Reese's peanut butter cup. And sure, my voice is peanut buttery smooth, but still, you need to see the peanut butter cups, right? No? I can really just say Reese's and you'll go get some? Okay, Reese's. 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 Really working, actually. Reese's. Reese's. I'm on to something. Reese's. Reese's. Reese's.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
The rent is too damn high. KBLA joins you in calling for affordable housing. The LA Tenants Union is a diverse, tenant-led movement fighting for the human right to housing for all. The LA Tenants Union demands safe, affordable housing and union rent control. They organize against landlord harassment, mass evictions, and displacement, and mobilize for the repeal of the Ellis Act and Costa-Hawkins Act. The LA Tenants Union is on a mission to strengthen tenants' political power through education, advocacy, and direct action. To get help with your eviction or other landlord-tenant issues, take action for justice, or become a member, visit latenantsunion.org. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Keeping you informed, entertained, and always ahead of the curve. This is RSVP with Jill Munroe on KBLA Talk 1580.
Hey VIPs, you are checking out RSVP with Jill Munroe here on KBLA Talk 1580. Now, before we came forward, yeah, that's a better way to say it. I mentioned that I was going to talk about Samuel L. Jackson. Now, we know that Samuel L. Jackson received an honorary Oscar for his career, which spans, at this point, 5 decades, 51 years. Can you imagine? He's been acting like almost as longer, technically, than he's been on Earth, right? He was probably in his 20s when he started. So people were saying, oh, you know, is it really an honor if they give you an Oscar just because they missed so many times awarding you the actual award? Well, Samuel L's not trying to hear any of that. He said, it didn't feel honorary to me. It felt like I was getting an Oscar and I earned it. He said that he could name 4 instances where he could have won or should have been nominated, but he is fine with accepting the honorary Oscar. He said this in a vulture.com interview. So shout out to Sam. He also went on to say, and Sam is 74 years old. I don't know if I realized that he was that old. Sam is really active. You think about all the action movies he's in. Think about this. Sam right now is in multiple franchises, right? He's in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. He's in the Star Wars universe. He did Shaft, right, for a few years. He's in Kingsman. He's done a bunch of Tarantino stuff. And now he has Secret Invasion. So, I mean, really, when you think about it, what is there to complain about? We've had this conversation before about how we honor our own and what we are valuing. Like, we understand the legacy and the importance and the desire to be honored by these mainstream institutions. But I do think that there is something to be said about accepting the roses that the people that always support your career are offering you. And when they show up for your film time and time and time again and spit those lines back at you, you got to consider that that in itself is an award, right? Right. That's what I think, at least. So shout out to Sam, always doing it big. Have you checked out Secret Invasion? I heard it's pretty good. It is on Disney Plus. It's about Nick Fury, obviously part of the Marvel universe. And I was told it's kind of like Marvel meets Jason Bourne. Kind of. That was the description that I was given. But if you have a Disney Plus subscription, check that out. We, could have saved that for our what to watch list later, but didn't. So here we are. All right. I mentioned Stephen A. Smith. So Stephen A. Smith is friends with a guy named Dan Le Batard. He used to be on ESPN. He used to have the show with Poppy. They shot it down in Miami. Dan was a longtime ESPN employee. He left the network a few years ago, and he has a podcast network that he has, right? So recently, he was discussing a situation that involves Stephen A. Smith. He says that Stephen A. Smith is beefing with some former ESPNers. And the reason why, he said, is that he felt like there were shots being taken at him inadvertently, right? So basically, Stephen A. Smith allegedly, according to Dan Le Batard, he said this on his podcast, it was a conversation about a monologue that Stephen A. put out on his podcast, The Stephen A. Smith Show. And if you've checked out any of those episodes on YouTube, they are very different from what he does on First Take. He's talking about topics that are not just around sports, but in general, a multitude of things. It's a little racier, a little more, right? And it comes out on YouTube. As a matter of fact, tomorrow, he said he's making an announcement about the future of First Take, and it's implied that it involves Shannon Sharp. sharp. And, well, I'll drop this in there. What is implied is not that Shannon is going to be one-to-one across the desk from Stephen A. day in, day out, but that First Take currently has a rotating cast of people that sit in the chair and talk with Stephen A. Smith. And it actually is kind of worked out. He brings in different personalities. You sometimes see people like Ryan Clark, Kendrick Perkins, Mad Dog, whatever his last name is. You know, Mad Dog, what is it, Andy? Russo, Mad Dog Russo, that's right, JJ Redick, and some others. So it's rumored that Shannon would be a part of that rotation, and that is allegedly what Stephen A. is going to be announcing tomorrow. But this doesn't have anything to do with that. So what he said is that Stephen A. has recently gone off about the conversation that is happening surrounding ESPN and them letting go talent, and the idea that they only kept certain black personalities that they feel, I don't want to say straddle the fence, and I don't have the exact clip, so I'll just say that aren't, you know, all the way out, which is interesting when you consider Stephen A. Smith and his career and that he's known for outspokenness. But they didn't name Stephen A., but I guess maybe he thinks that it's being implied since he's one of the last ones standing, still at the network. So, you know, Stephen A. rides for ESPN because that's his thing right now, and he is the face of the network. So what Dan Le Batard says is that when Stephen A. kind of took a shot at him about some of his comments regarding his former workplace, he really is taking his frustrations out that he has with Jemele Hill, because there was a point where Jemele basically, okay, so here we go. Let me break this down better because I feel like I'm jumping all over the place, and I want to make sure we're getting all of this in here. So he said that Stephen A. basically reacted to an interview that was on his podcast in 2021 with Jemele Hill. He said that Le Batard has also said about Stephen A. that he loves him as a friend, but doesn't appreciate what his particular brand of journalism has done to the sports debate, that it has made it almost cartoonish, and that a lot of what we love about sports isn't there anymore, that he's helped make it dumber. And he said it bothered him that the last time they talked, that they spoke about what the future of it looked like, and that it's now so controversial and performative, and it's dumbed down. So Smith took some of that personally, and so he took some shots back. But Le Batard maintains that his problem is not actually with me, and this is a quote. He said, "It's with what Jemele Hill said on our platform, and it's more complicated because I'm a much easier target for him to put a name on than going after the black female that he also respects." Hill was a guest on Le Batard's show about a year ago, like I said, in 2021, and the conversation was surrounding what happened with ESPN and former hosts Rachel Nichols and Maria Taylor. Hill said that she had a problem with the network's management and how they treated her when she left there. And I guess Stephen didn't exactly agree with some of the points she raised, but what I want to know is, do you think that it is okay for Dan Le Batard on his podcast? Obviously, it involves him. He said that he is a friend to both. Is it okay for him to reveal this information, considering he understands the sensitivity of Stephen A. Smith having beef with Jemele Hill and what that might look like? We're going to get into that when we come forward. Coming up is news and sports. You are listening to RSVP with Jill Munroe on KBLA Talk 1580.
Trending topics and the hottest happenings. You're listening to RSVP with Jill Munroe on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Esther Dillard, and here's the latest from the Black Information Network. The record-long heat wave shows no signs of letting up in the U.S. Over 2,000 heat records have been broken across the southern U.S., from California to Florida, since the first heat advisories were posted in early June. Forecasters warn the heat dome is expanding in Texas and in the Southwest, and triple digits could drag well into next week and beyond. The New Orleans City Council says Black Mayor LaToya Cantrell's office violated state law regarding political flyers sent out earlier this year. According to Council President J.P. Morrell, the mayor's office bought and distributed the flyers with city funds, but never revealed the cost. And a single winning ticket in the billion-dollar Powerball lottery has been sold in California. If you didn't win, about $720 million will be up for grabs in the Mega Millions drawing this Friday night. I'm Esther Dillard from the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
Like to shop local? Go to ComparianInsurance.com. Their agents are local insurance experts finding you the right insurance at the right price from national carriers. Comparian Insurance Agency. Local agents. Expert advice.
2 years ago, on Juneteenth 2021, KBLA Talk 1580 launched with a promise to give disenfranchised fellow citizens a voice in current political, economic, social, and cultural issues with an empowering, sustainable, and restorative language.
Everybody's got a little light under the sun, under the sun, under the sun.
As we enter our third year, we are delighted that KBLA Talk 1580 consistently emerges as the talk station of choice for African American listeners. In a vigorous public opinion research study, the 2023 African American Media Issue Survey finds that for the second consecutive year, KBLA Talk 1580 remains the most trusted, credible, and reliable media source in Southern California for African Americans and beyond. Furthermore, 80% of those surveyed agree that outlets like KBLA Talk 1580 provide honest and authentic content about the issues most important to the Black community directly from Black journalists who understand the issues that need to be addressed. At KBLA Talk 1580, we remain committed to curating conversations that matter to you. Thank you for your continued support. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. The station that sounds like the city looks.
I'm James Alexander, a proud member of AARP. 1967, I was 17. That spring, my friends, the Barcades, and I made Soulfinger. It was a hit. Number 3 on the charts. That summer, we became the great Otis Redding's band. First gig, the famed Apollo. That fall, we toured. That winter found me in a morgue identifying the bodies of my bandmates and Otis Redding. My music and their memories bring me joy. The Barcades forever.
What would you call a joy that is as solemn as it is sweet and knows no bounds? A joy that's beautifully rooted in soul and resilience. This is Black joy, a joy that reflects pride and honor despite every challenge. AARP believes the power of Black joy is limitless, and we celebrate this joy supreme. Join us in celebrating Black joy at aarp.org/blackcommunity.
To my hometown, my community. Some of you have known me my whole life. Do you notice anything different about the kids in the neighborhood? Ever paid attention? We might start with gifts, money, attention. These are signs. Child trafficking is happening right here in this town. So don't just watch through the window. Pay attention. Because the more we know, the more we'll all know to say no. Learn the signs to look for and how to help at no-to-say-no.com.
KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about. KBLA Talk 1580 joins you in standing for education as a right, not a privilege. Charles R. Drew University of Medicine and Science is a private, non-profit, community-founded, student-centered university committed to cultivating diverse health profession leaders who are dedicated to social justice and health equity for underserved populations. CDU does this through outstanding education, clinical service, and community engagement. Recently, Charles Drew University made history by opening only the 5th medical school at an historically Black university. Congratulations, South LA, and congratulations to the Dean of the medical school, Dr. Deborah Protho-Stith. CDU is now training doctors and providing $90 million in annual economic benefit to Watts and surrounding neighborhoods. To apply for medical school, get more information, or sign your child up for the Junior Doctors Saturday School program, visit cdrewu.edu. That's cdrewu.edu. At KBLA, we are dedicated to equity in education and ending healthcare apartheid. and we don't black down. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio that's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. Curating the most compelling stories and delivering them straight to your ears. You're listening to RSVP with Jill Munroe on KBLA Talk 1580.
Yeah, it's another one of those Snoop Diggle Double G LT hunting things. Yeah, we all off in the hills right about now. It's about 2 in the morning. Say what? Say what? Got a big C style on the grill. Keeping it way real. Happy C-Day, my nigga. If you got beef with DPG, holla at me, the D.O.G. If you got beef with DPG.
Let me tell you something. I love Snoop. I love my West Coast music, but what I will promise you is that I keep Barbie hands whenever I hear West Coast music. Unless it's a W, I make sure that no one assumes I'm throwing up any signs or is anything going on, because, I feel motivated. I'm not supposed to want to do some of the dances that you see in the videos, but I'm from LA, so I'm talking about, sea walking, blood skip, those type of things. That's not my ministry. I'm just saying, that was a banger. Shout out. I just got to put it out there. It's just my feeling. I keep Barbie hands because, people get confused. They don't always understand. You are listening to RSVP with Jill Munroe here on KBLA Talk 1580. We talk all the headlines and trending topics in entertainment, sports, lifestyle, and culture. Before we left you, we were discussing Stephen A. Smith and his alleged private beef with sports journalist Jemele Hill that was revealed by Dan Le Batard, who is a friend of both and a former co-worker of both, So before we get into that, I'm going to hit some of these comments off because they are on fire. Terry has jokes. Terry, you're a guy, right? Terry? Okay. I just want to make sure. I didn't want to misgender you, but this is the thing. Terry said Areva Martin is good friends with Stephen A. I should holler at her about what's going on. Okay, Terry, you are funny tonight. Tony Yayo wants to know, what happened to Michael Smith? Is the Jemele Hill Trump fiasco partly responsible for his departure from the limelight? A little bit. They were a package deal. They were a team. Michael supported Jemele in what happened. They started out on His and Hers. They met back in the day and were good friends for a long, long time. They actually met when someone tried to hook them up, I think, and date, and Michael just wanted to play video games. But, they ended up really good friends. And on that show, Michael Smith has, I believe it is on Peacock. I don't remember the gentleman's name that he is partnered with, but it's called Brothers from Another Mother.
Michael Holly, that's who it is. And they have a podcast that just touches on sports and other topics. So if you have Peacock, you can check him out there. He's still around. He's still doing his thing, but it did impact him. There definitely was a change. But as far as I know, as far as social media tells us, they are still friends and still connected. Tony Yayo also says His and Hers was a great pod back in the day before SportsCenter 6. And, things happen in business and we have to stay professional and move accordingly. It's been quite a while. Everybody's doing well. They both moved out to LA. So shout out to that, West Coast living. And, we wish them nothing but success in the future. Terry said that I would make a great cheerleader. Of course I was a cheerleader in high school. What are you saying? Can't you tell? I think that's obvious. I mean, what? I was a cheerleader? Yeah, absolutely. I was a cheerleader. I played volleyball too. I was on the swim team for a little bit. So, and I was a dancer. So I was all over the place.
That was when you could be multifaceted as far as your extracurricular activities. Now you got to pick one and lock in and hope you make it pro, because that seems to be the path. But that's another topic for another day. I want to hear from you guys in the chat. Do you think that Dan Le Batard was wrong for revealing this information on his podcast? Is this something that he should have kept in the cut or waited for one or the other to address it? I'd like to know if you guys have any opinions on that. Andy?
He didn't mention Jemele Hill's by name.
Yes, he did.
Oh, he did?
Yes,
Oh,
he
okay.
did.
All right,
He said by name. He said he understands why Stephen A. Smith would have a problem with Hill's sentiments, because basically he said what she said was they wanted black faces. They didn't want necessarily black voices. And Stephen A. took offense to that.
I'm still trying to figure out what the issue is with that statement, though.
I guess because he is one of the black voices and faces at the network. So the implication is that, you know, he might not
be black enough.
Or something, or maybe, you know, there's a split in, you know, positioning, and he's siding with executives, let's just say management or something like that. We're not sure what she's implying, but he took offense to it. And so, but behind closed doors, he's never addressed it with her name attached to it. But Dan Le Batard said the heat, the smoke that he had for him was really because of that, because Jemele made those comments on Le Batard's podcast.
I think Le Batard really got beef with Stephen A., though.
Like silently?
Absolutely.
I think so. It comes out. It seems a little passive aggressive, no?
Absolutely. I think he wanted Stephen A. Smith to be a part of those layoffs.
Okay.
Now, I don't know if you saw the clip from his partner Stugatz, who basically went in on Le Batard and Stephen A., basically saying that, hold on, y'all both sold out.
Okay.
And went in.
Well,
and I was like, shout out to you, Stugatz. I appreciate you for letting your partner know, like, hey, bro, you part of this too. Like,
I mean, and that is fair. I mean, we think about when, why am I blanking on what was it, and Poppy? Like, I watched that show.
Highly questionable.
That's what it is. Okay, I'm like, with Poppy. I keep saying with Poppy. What are you talking about, girl? Highly questionable. So I enjoyed that show. I enjoyed it when it was Dan, Poppy, and Bomani Jones. So that was pretty entertaining.
Great show.
There was a lot of chemistry there, a lot of things, and you know, then whatever happened with that, it moved around, and Bomani got his own show, and that went okay for a while. I actually, High Noon, I wasn't for, because I felt like they should have paired Bomani with someone different.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like, I didn't dislike Pablo, but I just felt like, one, they're both very, very intelligent and they speak cerebrally, but there wasn't an energy or a bounce to their interactions. I just, you know, I don't know if it was that, because I felt like they did. I just felt like, for me, it didn't give me enough to want to tap in like that. So I don't know, but shout out to them all. Speaking of Stephen A. Smith, we know that he is in his acting bag right now. He's in his multimedia thing. So while he was on his podcast talking to Issa Rae, he shared what he feels are his dream roles. So I'm going to list them for you, because you know Stephen A. Smith has a reoccurring role on General Hospital. He plays a thug named Brick who puts in work for the Quartermain family and things of that nature. But lately Stephen A. has been talking about how he really wants to get into his acting bag. It's calling him. He wants to step in front of the screen more. So he shared with Issa what his roles that he would love to play, or the type of roles that he would love to play. And, you know, he didn't back down. He really went for the stars. He said his dream role would have been to play Django. So he would have been there, you know, kicking butt and taking names and slapping the whip around. Or he would have been Denzel Washington's character in The Equalizer. He said he could have done that. So clearly he's an action guy. Or he also mentioned, surprisingly, a film that I mentioned earlier, Focus. He said he would like that role. I don't know how I feel about Stephen A. Smith in that role. I actually am unclear about Stephen A. Smith in any of these roles. But, I mean, I'd be willing to take a look. Why not? He's expressive, and obviously he's connected. So I say, if you got dreams, touch them all if you can. Why not? But we'll see what happens if Stephen A. formally addresses this situation, this alleged beef with Jemele Hill. But, if he does, we'll keep you informed. When we come forward, we'll have more trending topics and headlines. We have some stories coming up about some spending habits of some professional athletes. We also have Snoop Dogg's commentary about why he's never gotten an invite to the Rock Nation brunch. All that and more, you're listening to KBLA Talk 1580 with Jill Munroe, RSVP.
Infusing a sense of fun and entertainment in every episode. You're listening to RSVP with Jill Munroe on KBLA Talk 1580. More when we come forward.
Hollywood Walk of Fame stars in 2024. Stay tuned to find out who's in next year's class. I'm Aisha Cairo with your K-Black Minute News. A new group of 31 entertainment professionals across film, television, radio, recording, and sports entertainment will have their names etched into Hollywood's history in 2024. One of the most celebrated names on the list was the beloved Chadwick Boseman. Others for the class of 2024 in Hollywood Walk of Fame was this year's Oscar winner Michelle Yeoh in the motion picture category. Other notable names include Chris Pine, Gwen Stefani, Andre, Dr. Dre, Young, Otis Redding, Christina Ricci, Brandy Norwood, Harry Washington, and more. The dates for the star ceremonies have not yet been scheduled. To find out all 31 inductees, visit youtube.com/Walk of Fame. Have you heard about Lendistry? Lendistry is a national black-led small business lender that is headquartered right here in LA. Once you've started your business, Lendistry provides flexible financing options starting at $50,000 to help you access the affordable capital needed to grow. Whether financing is needed to increase working capital, acquire a business, purchase inventory and equipment, or refinance debt, Lendistry has a solution for you. Lending products range from traditional business term loans and non-revolving lines of credit to SBA 7A loans and commercial real estate financing. Lendistry's pre-application process is simple and does not impact your credit score. Visit lendistry.com/KBLA to learn more and to get started with an application right from the website.
KBLA Talk 1580 stands for Unity and Healing. African Focus Incorporated is a nonprofit organization based in California that focuses on the growth and well-being of Africans all around the world. Their mission is to promote the well-being of people of African descent through knowledge and appreciation of one another by building a bridge of love and understanding. African Focus Incorporated strives for cultural, educational, and economic growth. They're the organization behind the African Family Induction Ceremony, African Goodwill Awards, African Focus Trailblazer Tours, African Dance Competition, and Showcase Los Angeles, Family Day, Good News Windows Microfinance Project, and more. To volunteer, travel with African Focus, or to attend one of their community building events, please call 310-676-7730. That's 310-676-7300. Or visit AfricanFocus.org. This is a diaspora-wide community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Now back to more captivating conversation on RSVP with Jill Munroe.
You are checking out RSVP with Jill Munroe live on KBLA Talk 1580. We are still in hour 2, still hitting off all these trending topics and headlines. I hope you are having a good time. I am. I enjoy chatting with you guys every night. We have some more comments in the chat. The YouTube chat is lit tonight. I appreciate you guys all up in there. Tony Yayo says, Stephen A. Smith would be dumb to address any potential beef with Jemele. It's awkward and would mobilize all types of outside voices and trolls to chime in and fan the flames. Tony, I agree with that. I think that, and that's why I think that it's kind of interesting that Dan would do this. But as Andy pointed out, maybe Dan has his own beef with Stephen A., and he's not the only one using the situation to poke back at the bear. Maybe everybody's being a little passive-aggressive and not addressing their friends in the situation, you know? So interesting. Shout out to Leslie Holmes in the chat for saying, please don't forget to hit the like button. That's right, Leslie. You tell him. I appreciate you. Shout out to subscribe and share too. That's right. Spread the love around. Tell a friend so that you guys can then talk about your VIP experience and, make others jealous because they missed out and you're ahead of the curve. Right? Right. Let's go. So there are always more topics to discuss. We have a little bit of legal news. Not that we didn't start the show with some, but this one is of a different sort. So we know Cardi B had a case against YouTuber Tasha K, which Tasha K lost. She said some things about Cardi that she shouldn't have said. Cardi gave her the opportunity to take them down. She did not. And ultimately, a judgment was made against her in the amount of $4 million. To which Tasha K responded, I ain't got it, baby. I'm broke, baby. What we doing? So she has continued on her YouTube channel. And there have been little moments, even though they're not supposed to have any interaction, that Tasha has kind of antagonized Cardi through social media. Well, guess what? Cardi wants her coins, and she has subpoenaed, or her lawyers have subpoenaed Tasha K's husband because they believe that all of the assets were moved into her husband's name and, were separately, and they want to see a list of all of his assets, all of his holdings, everything that's going on. She wants to make sure she gets what's owed to her no matter what and no matter the cost. According to Hip Hop DX, court documents obtained reveal that Cardi has subpoenaed Tasha K's husband to the tune of 19 pages of information that she is looking for. They want to know everything, where every nook and cranny is buried. So what the order says is the filing of the case imposed an automatic stay against most collection activities, according to the order. This means that creditors generally can't take action to collect the debts from the debtors or their property. For example, while the stay is in effect, creditors can't sue, garnish wages, assets, deficiency, repossess property, or otherwise try and get money. Creditors also say that, it also says creditors can't demand repayment from the debtors by mail, phone, or otherwise. However, the subpoena doesn't violate that order because it's going through the court. And it states that an examination of an entity under this rule 343 of the code relates to the acts. So basically, they're like, we want to go through the estate. We want to know every discharge that's made. We want our coins. Do you think, and I know this has probably been discussed to death, and I know it's pretty simple, but at what point because obviously I feel like Tasha K thought that, her views would go up, her subscribers would go up, it would be good times. At what point is it not worth it? Because Cardi has a point to prove. It's not going to go away, and we know that people will hunt you down over some money. And those lawyers, they want to continue to get a check, so they'll keep it in action. I just wonder at what point was it not worth it to just leave that woman alone and stop discussing her? I don't know. Everybody has a job to do, but there's so many topics to discuss, right? So, I don't know. Good luck to Tasha K. Cardi, get your money, girl. Shout out to you. Now, in other news, there's always so much happening. And I told you next hour we're going to talk about why Snoop says that he believes Jay-Z has never invited him to the Rock Nation brunch. But I have to share with you that Snoop has another project dropping that has nothing to do with music. Snoop is, I wouldn't say the master pitchman. I leave that to Shaq. But Snoop definitely has his hand in a lot of businesses. So People magazine recently revealed that Snoop and E40 are coming out with a cookbook. And, Snoop's first cookbook, I didn't even realize Snoop had a cookbook. It was called From Crook to Cook, the platinum recipes from the Boss Dog's Kitchen. Gave his favorite recipes in it. There was like filet mignon recipes all the way down to Frito barbecue twists. So I guess that's munchy food. Well, this one is in collaboration with E40's Goon with a Spoon. You know, he has a food line, an ice cream line. Snoop also has his breakfast food line. So they're coming together, and the book will feature over 65 recipes and takes inspiration from both Snoop and E40's music, as well as the meals that they cook and eat together. So, I'm wondering, are you interested in an E40 Snoop Dogg cookbook? Do you think there's some recipes you would want to check out based on their song? I mean, I don't know. I'm trying to think of song titles that would be appetizing as food. Nothing but a G thing? What is that? Like,
Goon with the spoon.
I mean, Goon with the Spoon.
That's what E40.
I know. That's his thing. But I'm wondering what meals, like Fizz Face? What are we doing? I Practice Looking Hard? A Mean Mug? These are some E40 titles from the deep early 90s cuts that I'm speaking on right there. I'm just trying to think what songs, you know. Tell Me When to Go? Is that an E40 song, or is that really Keek the Sneak? I'm trying
It's
to
both
think.
of their songs.
Okay, it's both their songs.
Well, really, E40 featuring Keek, but
Okay. I wasn't sure which way that one went, you know. Tell Me When to Go, what? Tell Me When to Go tacos, maybe? I don't know. I'm curious.
hey, if you got beef,
That's a good one. That's a perfect one. There you go. And we played that earlier.
oh yeah, sprinkle me.
Sprinkle me. But what are we sprinkling? Are we
Sugar.
sprinkling sprinkles, sugar on
Salt.
salt, any Salt Bay, whatever. Maybe it's French toast. I don't know. Anything that requires a little bit of you know, a flick of the wrist.
Flick of the wrist.
So, all of that. Well, E40 and Snoop Dogg's cookbook will be coming out later this fall. Make sure that you check it out. Remember, Snoop was a reoccurring guest. Well, no, he had the cooking show with Martha Stewart back in the day. I really feel like Martha helped him get into the food business and develop a more appreciative side to that aspect. I mean, you think about Snoop's career and the trajectory. Who would have thought Snoop Dogg and Martha Stewart would be on a show together? And they say they really like each other. And I kind of believe that. I kind of see that it's an authentic friendship. It's so interesting, you know? Murder was the case till now. I love Snoop. I know that he can be the problematic uncle sometimes. But I also want to mention, you know, we had talked about a few weeks back, Fab saying, where the barbecues at? Who's doing the barbecues? And, you know, he's 45. So shout out to Snoop and E40 for holding it down for the uncles, cooking and getting all that going, you know?
Speaking of cooking.
Yep.
Shout out to Bun B and his Trill Burgers.
That's right. Bun B has Trill Burgers. I heard they are amazing. I would love to check him out one day if he has turkey ones, because I don't eat beef. But, you know, I do not eat beef. I do not eat pork. I'm limited in...
No steak?
No steak. I have not had steak since 2004. I miss it
Salute
because
to
a
you.
good steak is amazing. But, you know, I decided I'm going to let that go. It's been even longer for pork.
So, you know, if you had a special somebody and wanted to take you to Ruth Chris, you're not going? You're just going to eat the side?
Going? No, I mean, Ruth Chris has shrimp. They have lobster. Okay. I like chicken. I know that's, I'll never say that I am basic. I know that is a basic food item, but there are lots of ways that you can cook it. There are things that you can do with it. So, you know, again, there are things that we can work around. Doesn't always have to be a steak dinner, but we appreciate that. So when we come forward, we're going to get into more trending topics and headlines. We're going to find out why Snoop thinks Jay-Z has snubbed him for an invite. We're going to talk about one NBA player who was reminiscing on his rookie year the night before the draft when he ran up a $36,000 tab. We're going to tell you what he spent it on. We're also going to talk about ex-NFL star Antonio Brown and whose wife he's after and what he has going on. All that and more. You're listening to KBLA Talk 1580 RSVP with Jill Munroe.
See me shine again, go with my mind again. But as soon as I finish this high again, I gotta go get my nine again.
It got a body on it from a party, don't it?
Yeah, and I've been trying to scam it, but don't nobody want it. They can help you with band-aids, we coming with grenades. You ain't seen these many niggas in life with diamonds and braids. I'm from the home where they get sprayed and gang-related raids. Oh, y'all, let's start begging after colors was made. Let's see walk to that and never give me no hassle.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Esther Dillard, and here's the latest from the Black Information Network. The record-long heat wave shows no signs of